Have you ever dreamed of living a slower, simpler life that gives you more time and space for actually living? In today's podcast, we're joined by Alys, who bought a house for just $7,000. That's $7,000 in Australia, and we learn how she streamlined her life to live fully on a shoestring budget. This one will really get you thinking about what's important in life and how sometimes going small is the answer to true happiness. And as always, we'd like to thank the sponsor of today's podcast, Dry Flush Toilets. If you haven't seen these amazing off-grid toilets, you really need to check them out. They're the cleanest, easiest, smell-free toilet that you've ever seen, and they recently won the best new camping technology in Australia. No more dumping chemicals or maintaining a composting toilet. Go to www.dryflush.com.au to see how they work. Let's get traveling.
Welcome to the Off-Grid Traveller podcast, where we meet the people who go off-grid and into a life of adventure, challenge, and grand new horizons. Whether on land or on sea, you'll meet some fascinating characters who've chosen the road less travelled and discover their best tips, worst moments, favourite destinations, and a whole lot more.
Today we're with Alys here on the Off-Grid Traveller, and we started the conversation, and some of the things Alys is talking about, how she's gone unintentionally off-grid. I was just like, oh my gosh, no, we have to start now and just let you flow with what's happened. But can you just go back to earlier that you mentioned that basically you didn't have. Why are you unintentionally off-grid?
Well, it was never intentional, hence the name. I basically bought a house that I bought a house about 15 years ago, which cost me $5,000 in the middle of nowhere, North and West Australia. Yes, it was technically $12,000, but I got a first home buyer grant, which reduced it down to that price. And I've always wanted to buy it back because I've been frustrated and scared and everything about renting in Perth, where I was renting, because rents have gone from about $350 a week to about $500 or upwards.
It just keeps rocketing, right?
Money. Yeah. So I don't have that money, and I'm just like, I do not want to work 3 jobs just so I can afford to pay accommodation and then die. It's just not the way you should go about life, really. It's incredibly stressful, plus real estate agent. We love them. So no more real estate agents. So I managed to buy the house back from the guy who I sold it to. Now, at the time when I sold the house initially, it was done without an agent, with me writing a rather mildly amusing Gumtree ad.
Right.
And because of that, I had a little bit of media attention. I won't say it went viral, but I guess back in the day, it went somewhat viral.
It hit a level.
And I sold the house that way. So I got the house back. I thought, let's organise, the electricity to be turned on. And so I rang the electricity company, and they said, all you need to do is to get an electrician to come and say it's safe. Yeah. And the one that I spoke to basically said very politely, they wouldn't touch it with a barge pole. So that is what set me on my off-grid sort of adventure. Yeah. And I'd never thought about power or how much I used or anything. You just plug your appliances in and they work. You don't think, this microwave is going to use 800 watts. I can't plug it into a power source that doesn't cover that. Or, I'm going to plug in my washing machine. It's going to be this amount of watts. Yeah.
You just never came to your mind before that.
Never.
You need this level of electricity to power just to get boiling water and stuff like that, right?
Yes. Yeah. And even the laptop, who doesn't leave their laptop plugged in overnight? Yeah, you do. I know you can tell.
I'll tell you what, I always unplug my stuff because I have my brain is just a little bit like, I don't like things plugged in when I'm gone. But I have done it many times in the past. So you just don't think about it, right?
But you don't realise it. And when you've got a 300-watt power station with a limited amount of amp hours, which are not normal hours, I haven't quite figured it out, but there is a thing you can Google that will tell you how many amp hours something uses on top of the actual watts. You basically are very careful with how you use power. So it's all charged to 100% and then it's turned off. when I'm not using it. And I'm trying to turn off other things like modems when I'm not using them. You know, and I'm sorry, my dog is in the background, so I have treats and I'm just
all
sort
good.
of
All good.
it's hard to
I've
put
got
her
a dog.
anywhere.
I've got a dog as well, and he's been hidden away by my wife at the moment. So,
Oh, that's so beautiful. A well-behaved dog.
oh,
No.
it depends. Day to day. Sometimes he likes people, sometimes he doesn't. But you know, it's just energy, right? But so you were mentioning about how you've actually started looking at alternative ways of getting electricity, and so what's been the kind of route, and how much have you learned during that rabbit hole of finding out what's the best usage of your space, and you know, at the best price as well, because obviously you want to keep things actually unintentionally off grid, but you don't want to be spending, you know, over and above of like tens of grands to get this all sorted out, do you?
No. And again, I had no idea what to do. So for a moment I panicked when they said, we won't come and look at your house and see whether it's safe. But then I went on the rabbit hole and I found these portable power stations that are powered by the sun.
Yeah.
Now you can also obviously do things with diesel, and you can do things with gas, but I don't want to use gas. I want it to be all 100% from the sun. So what I found, first of all, was, okay, I want to power, because I don't have any money. I'm broke. I was like, well, first of all, I have to power my main things, which is, well, my business, which is I sell online and I also transcribe. So I need to have something that deals with all the low wattage stuff. So that is like the laptop, phones, the modem that runs the internet, and I've also got internet on my phone, so I had to figure that out. And I found out a 300-watt power station would power that, so I actually bought 4 of them, and two solar panels, and that is how I've run my house. So for the last week it's been really great, and I have yet to run out of power.
And when did you start doing this off grid? When was the beginning that it happened, that they were like, no, we're not touching it with a barge pole?
Oh, about 3 months ago, I'd say.
Wow. So
I had no idea.
This is like you're right. Well, you're 3 months into it now. And how long did it take you to get to a point where you started feeling comfortable with the situation that you were in, and then turning it into a positive?
Well, for starters, I've only been in Norseman in my middle of nowhere house with no power for the last week.
Okay.
I literally was in a truck for 8 hours with my dog right beside me this time last week. So this is the first time I've had to try it out fully without any power at all. So for the last week, I've managed to learn how to boil water with a little device.
I saw that on you literally have it outside, because it's hot enough, right, outside, that you leave it outside, and then it heats up the water, and then you're using it for showering and stuff like that. Is that right? Or
two different options. Yes, I have a shower that was made out of weed sprayer, which is basically and yes, you put it outside, and that's your hot water system. It gets hot from the sun. I haven't found it in amongst all my packaging yet, so I've been bathing out of a bucket. So,
wow, this is off-grid mindset. I love this.
Yeah, I washed my hair yesterday because I thought it needs a wash, so that was out of a bucket as well. So when I used to live here, my hair was much, much longer, so that was a bit more of a challenge. But yeah, so you just make it work. So yeah, that is the ensuite shower, which I haven't found yet. But no, the boiling of the water was actually a little device that I got from Target. It's about the size of your hand.
Yeah.
Like, not good for a family.
No.
Unless you like watching fun. Well, you might enjoy doing, as a family. It's quite interesting, all things. I mean, I boiled water from that. It's a little tiny, with my 300-watt power station, and you cannot boil water usually with a 300-watt power station.
How much do you normally need?
Oh, at least 1,000 watts, I'd say. But you could be lucky with the microwave, which, like, the smallest microwave wattage I found is about 700 watts.
Yes.
But you've got to look it up to find it, and if I find, when you go into the shop and you're sort of looking at the boxes, a lot of the times it doesn't have the watts on there.
Is it on average? On average, they're around about 850, aren't they? Like 850 to 1,000 for microwaves, and so
yeah. Well, it depends. But I'd say you could get away with an 800-watt kind of microwave.
right.
But I mean, if you've got all this stuff that you've already bought, and you suddenly decide, oh, I've got no power. You've got to be really aware. Oh, my microwave, how much is that? Let's look at the back of it and see whether it's got some details on the back, a little sticker. It's like I found a fan here the other day that I'd left here when I sold it the last time, and it had 50 watts written on it. So I'm like, yeah.
So it's within the limit.
Yeah.
So what are you doing for your food at the moment then? You did very, very briefly touch on it just before we started, which was pretty cool.
Bit of everything, really. Like, I do have some tins.
Yeah.
I have tins of beetroot and tins of mushrooms and spaghetti. I have chocolate milk that is not refrigerated, straight off the shelf.
Right. So you have to drink that pretty rapidly.
Oh, it's fine. It's got so much sugar and it doesn't really matter, you know.
Yeah,
I mean, it's lovely to have. I bought all this sugary sort of cereal as well, and I've got the same as the chocolate milk. They're those long life milks. They're like, we call them poppers. I don't know whether you call them poppers. I know poppers are another name for something very naughty. But we call them poppers in Australia, or in some states of Australia anyway. And they usually have juice in them or things like that. And you send it with the kids' lunchbox. Not that I have any kids or require any kids or want any kids, but that's what they are. They're basically about 200 mils, and you just drink them or you put them on your cereal and you're done. The other things, if I want to be more sort of extravagant, there are MRE meals, which you can put into they're a plastic bag, and they've got a heating element inside it, like a little pad thing that you put inside a plastic bag, and then you add the pouches of the food. So my favourite at the moment is steak and mashed potato. Oh, look, there's my dog. Steak and mashed potato. So you put them in the bag, and I put them both in the bag, even though you might not supposed to put them both in the same bag. Add a little tiny bit of water, and then the bag gets hot and heats it, and the steam. You know when people get angry and steam comes out their ears, like
yeah.
That's what happens. Yeah, that's what happens with the bag. And you touch the bag, and the bag is hot. And then about 12 minutes later, you have steak and mashed potatoes, which is, you know, a lot of people like to use delivery services, and a lot of the time it arrives cold. Now, the price of that was a bit extravagant. It was about $28.55.
But is that for how many do you get with the $28?
Well, this is one steak pouch, one mashed potato pumpkin, and one heater bag. Right, so it's a bit theatrical and fun. So, I mean, I would recommend giving it a go.
How much was how was the taste of it as well?
Amazing. Like, it's real food. You can get MREs that are not real food I tried one the other day that was not good. Not from this particular brand, but this brand makes amazing stuff. So this is like, if I cooked it for you, you'd be like, oh, you're such a good cook. You're amazing. So it's proper, and it doesn't require any freezers or fridges. Or anything to store it. It literally just comes in a pouch. Like, you know how you buy gravy from a shop? Yeah. It's just like that. You just buy it, and it just magically happens in this bag in 12 minutes.
You've got similar ones, but this isn't an MRE. This is for basically you crush it, and then it becomes a heat pad that you can use for like 12 hours. They're phenomenal here in Korea. And
I've seen them.
Yeah. But I think it might be the same material that's inside that heats it up, because it gets to a point where you're like, you could probably cook stuff with this. And
it's amazing.
It is amazing. And it's making me wonder, like, what about if you had the stuff in it that you could use then to cook other food? Would that be a problem, or is that another rabbit hole that I've just seen if you could?
I've gone down that rabbit hole. I actually have bought a meal that I found in a supermarket that is in a similar bag. I'm like, can I put that in the bag and cook it, you know? And that's a more of a metal-y kind of bag. And then I've got like a plastic one, and I'm like, oh, I don't know whether I'm gonna, if it's toxic or you know what I mean.
What about if you took it out and put it in something which was a different container and then had it heated underneath? Like even a glass container potentially. I don't know. Like look, I'm not saying that you should try it. I'm just saying that if it comes to mind and you do, please let me know, because I'd really like to.
I will. Oh,
Yeah.
there's people doing bad things to MRE, like those heater bag things on YouTube. Like, yeah, they're doing things that you shouldn't be doing. I don't know whether the glass container would work, but I think the main thing is that at the top of the bag there is a seal.
Yeah.
So it's a seal that doesn't. So I think that's what does it. The fact that it's reacting to the water, and there's nowhere really for the water to escape except for the little holes at the side where the steam comes out.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
But
Cool.
I might, when I've got more time and more money, you might have an experimental time. Like I said, I didn't expect to be able to boil water, and I did. But maybe I can make a cake. Maybe I can make eggs. Maybe I don't know.
Well, you're only 1 week in at the moment, so the fact of the matter is you're still at the beginning of this brand new adventure. Which you're what I love about it is that you're not going like, oh my gosh, this. What am I going to do? You're going, no, okay, I'm unintentionally off grid. What do I do to make the best of this situation and actually thrive in it as well? Because it sounds like you're having the best time of your life, to be honest.
Oh, it's wonderful. I'm not stressing. The only thing that's stressing me, they're called double Gs. Have you heard of double Gs?
No.
They're a pest in Western Australia.
Okay.
You go for a walk outside and you come back in and you bring them in, and they've basically got 3 prongs on them. So you get up in the middle of the night or whatever and barefoot, and you get a bit of a surprise.
Ooh, how many times have you?
Oh, too many.
Too many already. Oh no.
But I'm laughing about it. I'm not stressed about it. Like, ever since I've got here, the stress has the stress has gone completely off. Yeah. Well, there's no rent, or there's no, because when you're trying to rent a house, you're like, oh, the real estate's going to come and do an inspection, and what are they going to whinge about? You're going, how am I going to afford to pay rent? Oh my God, this bill's come in. Oh, I've got an electricity bill for $200. What? How am I going to pay that? And the rents are going up. I'm reading on the internet, people's rents are going up $60, $80, $100. There's no rentals here in Perth. If I wanted to get a rental, it was $500. So it was all the stress of, oh my gosh, and
how
it would cost me, $25,000 to rent a house for a year, and plus pay all the expenses as well.
So it sounds to me like the fact that you've gone off grid, you're now living versus surviving, when the fact is that you're off grid, but you should be surviving, because that's what the mindset is when you're off grid, but you're actually thriving within that situation. And then on top of that, I'm sure a lot of people would love to know is, like, what are your current costs? Like, what are your current, like, what are you having to put out at the moment?
It was more the purchase of the house, which just killed me inside financially, even though it was a small amount.
Yeah.
I bought it back for $12,500 from the guy who bought it from me. He's basically, he's had it boarded up the whole time, so pretty much it's as I left it. I'm missing a kettle, but other than that, I'm okay. So that was an expense. Then I had about $5,000 moving expense.
Yeah.
The mental stress of all of it, including
traveling, is always crazy. Yeah, it's a massive thing.
Yeah, so it wasn't only traveling, it was the real estate, it was emptying my house. I have a shop that has a lot of books in it and DVDs and CDs. I had to move all of that, and it's just me. I had to move a dog. So that was that expense. But at the moment, there's no expenses because I've paid the house out in cash that I've saved.
Yeah.
No, I'm not a financial role model because I have no super or any savings. But hopefully after this year I will have a decent amount of money in my account. So the only outgoings really is my internet.
Yeah.
I watch streaming services, so
you gotta have something to keep the brain chugging along once in a while. It's nice to watch stuff as well, so I get that.
And I watch that on my iPad. Even though these 300-watt things will run a TV, I can use an iPad, and I'm trying to run things that will be powered by USB, because I can charge them at the same time as I'm plugging them into the solar. So if it's a USB something, or a 12-watt appliance, which I don't have any 12-watt appliances yet, but they will be my fridges. I'll be able to do that at the same time as charging them. Whereas if you've got a normal plug that you plug in at home, you're not able to charge at the same time. It's called pass-through charging. See, I'm sounding like I know
everything. You know, you do. You like, and you're gonna
nothing.
Give it 6 months more, and you'll have even more knowledge. And it's just because it's out of necessity.
This episode of Off Grid Traveller is proudly sponsored by Dry Flush Toilets Australia, home of the world-famous Lavio Dry Flush Toilet. This patented electric toilet has no chemicals, is not a composting system, and can be set up literally anywhere in under 60 seconds. It looks and feels like an at-home toilet to use, but it can be used anywhere with no external power or water, and it still flushes. There's also no cartridge to clean or empty, and it's perfect for camping, caravans, converted vans, boats, tiny homes, or anything off-grid. Go to www.dryflush.com.au and use coupon code OFFGRID to get a 10% discount on your toilet order today.
Which is the biggest teacher in the world, in my opinion. If you haven't got something that you've had all this time, like, you know, coming from the city life, you take all of these things for granted all the time. The amount of times, you know, I've got a light on here, I've got a light on there, I've got, you know, we've got so many things continuously plugged in. But the fact of the matter is, like, how much of it do we actually need, and how much of it is actually being wasted right now just because we can? Like, you know, you have to take into consideration, how much am I actually using? And it shocks me to think that, you know, can I actually get my prices down just in general if I just unplug things a little bit more?
Look, I was thinking the other day, I thought, look, if someone wanted to give it a go and just get a small power station, like a 300 watt like me, and see how much of their life they could power with it.
Wow.
And some solar. I mean, look, my setup, my 4, they were on special. Okay, so they're a little bit dearer than now. I got 4 of those 300 watt power stations and 2 solar blankets for about $1,500. My last bill was about $200 at my other house. Mind you, that would include a little bit of air conditioning, but I mean, I mainly didn't use it. So just keep in mind for that price, and they are rechargeable about 2,000 times before they start to lose any sort of charge, but they will still work. So just imagine if you just tried just one little power station, said, oh, what am I going to do today? Oh, we want to do this or we want to do that. And then you look at little appliances, like I got that little mini thing from Target, that little that I boiled water on that worked. And you go, oh, I can do that. And then I'm not using any electricity. I'm actually from the grid. I'm just using stuff from the sun. I mean, of course, you can plug these things in to your plugs at home or to your car or whatever to charge them. But I wanted to go completely off grid, and it works. And I can't believe, like, I just stick it outside in the sun, and then 9 hours later,
you've got a full charge.
It's fully charged again.
And how long does that last?
Well, it depends what you use it for. Like when you plug in your normal plugs, like it's AC and DC. The DC side is like the USBs and the 12 volt, and the AC is like there's one plug in these particular ones. The AC will burn it pretty quickly. But I mean, if you're just plugging in phones and stuff to charge, and I've also got these things.
Oh yeah, okay. So you charge those up as well. So you've got those extra power bricks available.
Yeah. And for example, I'm running a fridge that is not a fridge, a fridge. I wish, a fan that is a USB fan. So it's powered by USB. So I mean, the fact that you can charge all those little things like these bricks while you're actually charging them in the sun. You've got so much power, it doesn't really matter.
You're in Western Australia. What the weather on a general basis, you've always got some sun hitting you, right? So I don't think you're always going to have the opportunity to be charging your equipment, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I mean, even on an overcast day, but I don't want to get them wet.
No.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I don't want to get them wet. So that's the other thing. I need to be careful. that. But any time that you have them outside when there's some sort of daylight, it'll charge, but how fast depends.
Yeah. What's because of within that time, let's say just the last week where you've gone completely off grid, what has been the lowest point in the sense of you've gone like, oh shit, this is pretty hardcore, or has it have you just felt like this is life now?
Nothing. The double G's is the only problem.
So it's just the buggies around the area, right?
It's just the double G's. If you Google them, you'll see they've got 3 spikes, and oh my gosh, annoying.
Because
that's
we live in a world now where you've got internet connection pretty much anywhere, and as long as you've got the Wi-Fi connected with you, it's interesting to think that if you've got those kind of small amenities like that, then do you need much? Like I'm kind of still trying to get my head around, how much electricity you're going to be using on a monthly basis, what are going to be your ins and outs, and what your how you feel generally, like because if you've got none of those stresses of the rent, you've not any of those stresses of having to live the particular life that people expect you to live, and you're feeling better than most people just because you're living it within your own means. It's just interesting to understand what do we actually need as humans? What makes us happy?
Look, as long as you've got a roof over your head, that's all that matters. And for most people, they think a roof over their head means paying whatever the amount of rent, be it $500 or whatever a week. They think that's what they need, and to work 2 jobs to get their kids babysat, to whatever. That's what a lot of people think. That's just what life is.
Yeah.
Or we have to pay. I mean, I come from Hamilton Hill in Perth, and someone was renting a 2-bedroom studio, $400 2 months ago, and just recently, a couple of weeks ago, $600 a week. And they don't realize, even if these people do pay that $600 a week, there are other services that are getting absolutely hammered, like food services that provide, or other help services that help people that are having a lot of trouble making ends meet. So they're being hammered. There's no government funding for these food services or other services that put people, when people get into hardship, and they're certainly going to be in hardship if they're trying to spend $600 a week on a 2-bedroom granny flat. It's just disgusting, to be honest. The thing that made me, actually, I'll tell you, made me feel better when I found out that I had no power. I just finished watching the series called Alone. Have you ever seen it?
No.
I was at my favourite Good Sammy's shop, because I do in Fremantle, and the lady there, Charmaine, she's amazing. She said, "Have you seen Alone?" And I'm like, "No." And it's a reality show. I'm like, oh, no, it's reality, terrible. But no, it's actually really, like, go and do a Google. There's been 9 or 10 series of it, plus there's other ones in other languages.
Yeah, right.
They put people that are experienced bush survivors.
Maybe I have seen it. No, okay, yeah. I didn't know the name. I think I may have seen it. Yeah, but continue. Yeah.
Yeah, so they basically are left alone, literally alone. They do all their camera work and everything, and have to hunt their own food, make their own shelter. So it's not your contrived sort of reality show, and it's not like, oh no, are they going to, get eaten by a bear? Well, maybe. There's literally bears and all other stuff. But they survive and thrive, rather than there's not a stress out really about it. Like, they have to hunt food, so that's a bit stressful, and build a shelter and make sure it's safe, which is also a bit stressful, and film themselves. And I know one guy, they do it, they have a tap out button, I've had enough, and he did a tap out. But when he did that, because then they come and save them and bring them home, he accidentally set his shelter on fire as well, so had to save all his film canister or whatever they have, so you could see. And of course it's all filmed, because they've set up video cameras facing the thing and whatever. But it's a great show, and without seeing that, I probably wouldn't have been as
prepped for this. You wouldn't have
stressed.
felt the that you can do this, and that comes onto another question as well. Is like how, because you've said that your costs are low, but you still need to have funds coming in as well, right? So
Oh yes.
how are you funding? Because you did mention very briefly that you used to have a bookstore.
I sell on eBay,
Yeah. Okay.
so I've got lots of books. So I can still have books. I sell on eBay, so books, DVDs, a bit of everything.
Yeah.
And I also am a transcriber. So I transcribe interviews, podcasts. I transcribe doctor's notes,
Yeah.
movie kind of documentary, raw footage. So a bit of everything. So that is what I do. When I was last here, I did not have self-sufficient work.
Mm.
So whenever you don't have self-sufficient work, you're at the mercy of being made redundant, which is what happened to me when I was in Sydney with my
Mm.
favourite job. And here we also closed the shop that I was working at the last time without any notification to me, like a week's notification, oh, the shop's closing. So now I've got my own stuff, so I don't have to worry about anyone else or dropping my hours down or anything like that. You know how people love to drop hours down when you
Mm.
work for them. So I know I remember I used to come in, they'd ring me, people would ring me, oh, come in. And then I'd come in at the last minute, you know, drop everything for them. And then they go, oh, we need to share the hours around with all the other staff. So they gave your initial shifts away. And it's just like,
So you've
guys,
taken that away. You've taken that away from them and put it into, so you become completely self-sufficient in
yep.
most aspects. And have you got goals on top of that to potentially farm as well, the land that you have, and start building up, or is it something that's not of interest to you?
I'm really bad at gardening, but yes, I'm quite interested in being able to pick stuff from my backyard. So
Mm.
I have a gardening friend, so hopefully she'll be able to help me out. But I'm hoping that yes, I can do at least something in the backyard, because it's a massive backyard. Like you could fit, gosh, 8 buses probably in the back, like large buses in the backyard. Like it's pretty amazing. And I own the land as well, because a lot of the houses here, you don't own the land, and it's
Right.
crown land. It's a leasehold only, which means you can lose the house like that. And apparently now it costs about 10 grand or more to do it. And I think it cost me a couple of grand or maybe less when I first owned the house to change it over from leasehold to me owning everything. Otherwise, it's useless, really.
Well, yeah,
So,
you can just stay there until they decide to kick you out, basically, again, right?
no, they won't kick me out because I
No,
own the
because
land as
you
well.
own it now, exactly. Yeah. So
But yeah,
sorry, go on.
yeah, but I mean, other people in the street probably don't have it, and
Mm.
they could be asked to buy.
Yeah.
But
What
we'll see.
what would you recommend, or what would you tell people that are potentially looking to go a little bit more off grid? Like, let's say that someone has had a shit time of it, and they're not happy with paying monthly rent. They've still got a job working somewhere. Maybe they just want to turn the electricity off. They buy a property that's maybe in Norseman near where you are, and they can get a place for a better price than what they'll probably get on Goldie or somewhere in Brizzy, where it's going to cost them an arm and a leg and the rest of the family. And it's just, what would be your biggest recommendation to them?
Go on the real estate website. There's two major ones in Australia, and search for the cheapest properties.
Mm.
So search from highest to lowest, and you can cover all of Australia. You will get a lot of stuff that is irrelevant when you look, but that's how I originally found my house about 15 years ago,
Wow.
is do that. And then the other thing you've got to remember is, if you can be self-sufficient, like have work for yourself from home, you don't have to stay here all the 52 weeks of the year. You can
No.
holiday with all that extra money and travel and do fun stuff that you
Yeah.
couldn't afford to do
Yeah.
when you're paying off your, gosh, $1 million mortgage or whatever. Oh my Lord, I no, I don't want to do that. And then no.
It's bloody
So
right.
you
Live. It's outstanding what you just said there. Like, if you live within a different type of mean, you have more money expendable to go and adventure and see other things. And I'm guessing for you in 12 months time, you're going to have a review of where you are, and then you will have extra funds to go and do other stuff. And that's,
Yes.
is that your goal? What's the long term for this?
Well, I mean, the other thing I'll bring up with regards to that, just that last point, a lot of people say I couldn't be without my my luxuries. You don't have to be without your luxuries. I mean, I've bought a house that is in an interesting condition in the middle of nowhere, so I am living without some luxuries, right?
Yeah, sure.
But as soon as you know how much what's each of the things that you uses,
Yeah.
you can, for not very much money at all, in a nice proper, just say your nice proper house that you have that usually has power, you can run it all off power stations and understand that you're not without any luxuries at all. I mean, I'm certainly without luxuries, but it's because I can't afford it. So just that's another big point to make. So sorry to interrupt.
No, please. And that's really, it's really important that, as you said earlier as well, your stress has melted away. You are happier, you feel good, you are learning things, which is keeping your brain functioning, because it's making you go like, hold on, I need to figure out how to get hot water, or I'm not going to have hot water. I need to figure out how I can make hot food, or I'm not going to have hot food. And, you know, in a lot of people take these things for granted, but actually heated stuff is a luxury to a certain extent. And you're not only going to be able to, you know, because I saw your videos, you're not only doing this, but you're educating other people as well on, hey guys, you don't need much to have a good life. It's just, you just need to take a step back, go out into the boons for a little bit, realize that if you had nothing, what do you actually need? And you'll probably be all right.
Yeah. I mean, combination of the alone thing, if you watch that, you sort of get a little bit of that mindset if you don't have it already. And yeah, it's just such a relief to not have to deal with the normal stuff. And I mean, look, I can always go to the cafe if I want to get a meal made for me.
And just chill out as well, you know, like how far out from the, you know, other people are you? Because you say you're in the middle of nowhere, but I'm guessing that you do still have a community around you, right?
Yep, there's houses like next door neighbors, so it's not like, oh, there's next door neighbor 1,000 meters away. It's actually literally next door. But I have a nice large house. It costs and backyard. It costs sorry, my brain just went.
It's all right.
See, I'm fine. So far, I was like, I'm so good at this and talking, and yes, but it takes 10 minutes to walk into town. So that I can have my eBay parcels to Australia Post, which is 10 minutes walk away. I can go to the cafe if I wish, if I've got the money. I can get this stuff shipped in, this food from, I got it from Survival. I can't even say Survival Supplies Australia. I get it shipped in a big box once I have some money again. Yeah. And it's all just magic, because it's not like, oh, it has to be in a refrigerated truck. It doesn't have to be in a refrigerated truck. It just arrives and it's magic to my door. So I'm close to people. There's only a few hundred people in town, and there's also a mine that's kicking off. You can hear at night, but it's fine. Everything's fine.
Yeah, you're happy. And what, you have a website that you're just building at the moment, and what's the website?
It should be unintentionallyoffgrid.com. So I'm hoping to do it this week coming before, before this goes live. So hopefully by the time this goes live, it'll be that. But that's what I'm shooting for. But I'm sure you'll be able to put in the description below, you'll be able to put the correct web address if for some reason unintentionally off grid
doesn't get you. That's fine. And you have a Facebook as well, which is unintentionally off grid. And honestly, I'd highly recommend people to check it out, because it's fun. It's just you figuring out things and just being yourself, which I really, really, really appreciate. And do you have any final tips for anyone who is looking to go unintentionally or intentionally off grid in the next couple of years?
Look, I wish I did, but it's just, watch my videos, I guess, and see what you think of what I'm doing, I guess. Do some Googling on the internet. But there's a lot of stuff on the internet that's also not true or is made harder than it should be. Like the shower, for example, I made from a weed sprayer. They're like, do this and do that and do that. And all I did was put a nozzle basically.
Shower nozzles type on it.
And that was it. I'm not at all handy or anything. I mean, mind you, I did take off some of the bolts that have been on the windows. The bottom bolts, I had some tools, and when I wonder whether this works, it did. So yeah, you just do stuff and Google if you don't know how to do it. And just understand that there's an answer. There's an answer for everything. If you think you can go without luxury, well, I tell you what, that steak and mashed potato is pretty luxury to me.
Straight like that. Yeah.
But you can get your beetroot out of the tin, but don't forget the can opener.
Yeah. Well,
problems. Get a pair of slip-on shoes if you've got double G's, and be aware that what double G's are. Do a Google, and if they're nearby you, try not to bring them in the house, which I haven't quite figured out yet. I wish I could be more helpful here. And
no, look, you've just started this off-grid lifestyle, and it's been a week, and you've given a lot of really awesome information, and it's just in my mind, I'm like, let's have a contact with you in 6 months' time as well, and just be like, what's happened, what's changed, what's going well, what have you completely scrapped? I think that would be just so interesting.
Yeah. I think, like, for now, this is a good start. And hopefully by the time we speak again, I'll have refrigeration. I'm looking at little drawers that,
you need that.
that you just slide in and out, and you can, that sort of thing. And maybe a higher wattage power station so I can run my washing machine and don't have to hand wash, because I am hand washing. I've got an outside toilet, so I've looked into various sorts of toilets, including the lovely ones that sponsor you guys. So
yeah, it's important to have something which, again, and it comes down to what is luxury and what is necessary, right? And it's beautiful to hear how your journey's going. And the most important thing that I really just love that you said is you don't have stress. Like you feel good, you feel happy, and you're just figuring things out as you go along. But if you didn't do any figuring out this whole next week, you would be in a comfortable position, because you've got yourself, you've got your dog, which is your family, and you haven't got high costs coming through.
Exactly. It's just amazing. So I just can't wait till I spend a few more weeks off grid and make some of the money back I've just spent and be able to afford some of the things I want, so it's just an amazing little situation I have here. Who owns a house and doesn't have a mortgage?
It's
I don't even drive.
Yeah,
don't even drive.
Don't need to. Like you said, 10 minutes down to the road. To town. So. And on that night, guys, thanks so much, Alys. It's been amazing. Again, check out the Unintentionally Off Grid, and you've got such a great personality, and really looking forward to seeing in the future. Cheers, guys.
If you or someone you know would be an interesting guest on the show, we'd love to hear from you. We love speaking to everyday people who've taken to the open road or open seas for an extended period of time, or anyone that's set up their life in an off-grid location. Please email guest@offgridtraveller.com.au to get in touch. That's 2 L's in Traveller.
If you like that video, you'll probably like this one, and you'll really love this one. And as always, we want to thank you for joining us. And if you want to like and subscribe, it really helps the channel grow, and it means that we can talk about more travel, get more tips, and everything off grid. Cheers.